I was tending to my zucchini plants when I heard her voice. This isn't some rural backwater, you know. Looking up, I saw a woman in sleek designer sunglasses standing at the edge of my property, arms crossed, her face pinched with irritation. That was my first run-in with Evelyn Harper, and it wouldn't be my last. Actually, I can, I replied calmly, brushing soil off my hands. This land's been a farm for over 50 years. I bought it 6 months ago after saving every penny from 30 years of teaching. 5 beautiful acres just outside Pinewood Estates, with rich soil perfect for my retirement dream. Grow organic vegetables, sell them at the farmer's market, and live quietly. Evelyn's cheeks flushed. I'm the president of the Pinewood Estates Homeowners Association, and your farm violates at least 6 community rules, she snapped, spitting out the word farm like it tasted sour. My property isn't under your HOA, I explained. Check your maps. This is zoned agricultural, established long before your neighborhood existed. Nonsense, she retorted, pulling out her phone to snap pictures of my garden beds. These weeds are an eyesore. Neighbors are complaining about bugs and smells. It's dragging down our property values. I straightened up. These aren't weeds. They're organic crops worth thousands. And there's no smell. I don't even keep animals. Her eyes narrowed. We'll see about that. Expect a formal notice soon. She stormed off in her spotless white sneakers. I shook my head and returned to my plants, but a knot formed in my stomach. I'd heard stories of overzealous HOAs, but I never imagined I'd be caught up in one. That night, I spread my property documents across the kitchen table. The deed confirmed my 5 acres sat outside HOA boundaries, zoned for farming. I photographed every page, just in case. 3 days later, an official-looking envelope was taped to my door, a notice demanding I stop all agricultural activities within 14 days or face $100 daily fines, citing rules about approved landscaping and neighborhood aesthetics. I called the county records office immediately. Yes, Mr. Bennett, your land is definitely agricultural, the clerk assured me. The HOA has no authority over it. Want official copies? Yes, please, I said, relieved. Email and certified mail if possible. Armed with the county's confirmation, I wrote a polite but firm letter to the HOA, explaining their mistake and attaching my zoning papers and maps. I hand-delivered it to their office and kept a copy. A week passed without a response. I was harvesting squash when my neighbor Jim from down the road stopped by. Heads up, he said, leaning on my fence. They were talking about you at the HOA meeting last night. That Evelyn woman's got it out for you. What did she say? I asked, handing him a fresh squash. He took it with a grin. She kept calling your place the eyesore farm. Said they need to act before others copy you. Some agreed, but others pointed out you're not even in their territory. Did they mention my letter with the zoning proof? Nope, Jim said, biting into the squash. Man, this is good. Evelyn acted like she never got it. My patience started to wear thin. That's ridiculous. I delivered it myself. Watch yourself, Jim warned. She's got some board members in her pocket. They're plotting something. That night, I installed 4 security cameras around my property. They cost more than I wanted to spend, but Jim's warning had me on edge. It was a wise move. 2 days later, while I was at the market, the cameras caught 3 people in matching Pinewood HOA Landscaping Committee polo shirts wandering my land, taking photos and notes. They even pulled up some of my beet tops to inspect them, leaving the roots exposed to the sun. When I got home and saw the damage, I checked the footage. There was Evelyn, leading the group, pointing at my vegetable rows and gesturing angrily. I couldn't hear her, but her furious motion spoke volumes. I printed stills from the video and added them to my growing evidence file. The next morning, another notice appeared, labeling my property a public nuisance, with fines raised to $250 a day, backdated to their first warning. At the bottom, Evelyn had scrawled, "Maybe now you'll take us seriously." I took a deep breath and called my lawyer friend, Sarah. "Don't pay a dime," she said after I explained. "They're banking on you giving in. Their notices are meaningless since you're not under their control. So what do? I asked. "Keep documenting everything. Send another letter by certified mail so they can't deny receiving it, and put up no trespassing signs ASAP. They've already trespassed." I followed her advice, posting signs that afternoon and mailing a stern letter demanding they stop harassing me and respect my boundaries. 3 quiet days passed, and I dared to hope Evelyn had finally checked the maps and realized her error. Then I woke to the roar of machinery. Rushing outside in my pajamas, I found a landscaping truck on the road and 2 workers approaching my zucchini beds with weed trimmers. "Stop!" I yelled, sprinting over. "This is private property." The men paused. "We've got orders from Pinewood HOA to clean this up," one said, showing me a work order with Evelyn's signature. "This isn't Pinewood land," I said, pointing to my signs. "Please leave now." They hesitated. "Look, I don't blame you for doing your job, but there's a boundary dispute. If you cut my crops, you could be liable." That convinced them. They apologized and left. I snapped photos of their truck and the order, shaking with anger as I called Sarah again. "This is beyond harassment. It's attempted destruction," she said. "Time to push back. I'll draft a cease and desist letter. Meanwhile, make your boundaries obvious." That afternoon, I staked bright orange markers along my property line and added more signs. I also hid a trail camera in a tree overlooking the targeted area. As dusk fell, I surveyed my farm. The neat rows I'd worked so hard on, the fruit trees taking root. Why couldn't Evelyn leave me alone? I didn't know her next move would threaten not just my rights, but my entire livelihood. "They're stealing my zucchini," I shouted into my phone, watching my security feed in horror as Evelyn and 5 others in HOA polos filled baskets with my crops. "I'm 15 minutes away," Sarah replied. "Don't confront them alone. Call the police now." My hands trembled as I dialed 911, reporting the theft. I'd gone to town for supplies, never imagining the HOA would rob me in broad daylight. I sped home, arriving as Evelyn directed her crew toward my prized heirloom zucchini plants, $1.16 each at market. "Stop right there," I yelled, jumping from my truck. "What are you doing?" Evelyn turned, shameless, with 6 baskets overflowing with my peppers, carrots, beans, and early potatoes, hundreds of dollars worth of my labor. "Oh, we figured since you won't maintain your yard, this food was going to waste," she said with a smirk. "We're just helping ourselves to what you obviously don't care about." Charles Reed, the HOA treasurer, stood nearby, chomping on one of my rare blue zucchinis, juice dripping down his chin. "This is private property," I said, pointing to my signs. "You're trespassing and stealing. I've called the cops." "Don't be absurd," Evelyn laughed. "We're the HOA. We have every right to enforce community standards. Frankly, this eyesore needs to go. My land isn't in your HOA," I said, my voice rising with anger and disbelief. "I've shown you the proof." "Proof can be altered," Charles said between bites. "We've already talked to the county about rezoning this area." My stomach dropped. Could they pull that off? "You need to leave now," I insisted, filming them with my phone. "This is criminal trespassing and theft." "Oh, please," Evelyn scoffed. "It's just some vegetables. Not like they're worth anything. They're worth thousands to me. This is my living." "Should have thought of that before defying our notices," she snapped. "Maybe now you'll take us seriously." They headed for the road, still carrying my produce. Evelyn turned back. "You'll get another citation and fine for multiple violations. Comply soon, or it'll get worse." Her tone was menacing. A police car rolled up as they reached the road. Officer Ryan stepped out, eyeing the scene. "What's happening here?" he asked. "These people trespassed and stole my crops," I said, showing my signs. "We did no such thing," Evelyn interrupted. "We were inspecting community grounds and removing unhealthy plants attracting pests." "My land isn't your community," I insisted. "I've got documents proving it's agricultural, outside HOA jurisdiction." Officer Ryan shifted uncomfortably. "Got that paperwork handy?" "Yes, inside," I said, "and security footage of them taking my stuff without permission." "We thought we had authority," Charles added smoothly. "A simple mix-up." "A mix-up doesn't fill 6 baskets with someone else's crops," I retorted. Just then, Sarah pulled up. "I'm Mr. Bennett's attorney," she announced, joining us. "I suggest the HOA return all stolen goods and leave now." "We've done nothing wrong," Evelyn said. "Then you won't mind explaining that to a judge," Sarah replied evenly. "Officer, my client wants to press charges for trespassing and theft." "Now hold on," Charles began, looking nervous. Officer Ryan sighed. "Everyone calm down. I need to see the documents to settle jurisdiction." While I grabbed my papers, Sarah discreetly filmed the baskets and HOA crew. When I returned, Ryan reviewed the files. Based on this, your property is outside HOA boundaries, he concluded. MS. Harper, your group needs to return the items and leave. Evelyn's face turned crimson. This is outrageous. We're protecting our community's value by stealing my crops. I asked. They're not crops, they're weeds, she yelled. Ryan raised a hand. Ma'am, return the vegetables and leave now. Glaring, Evelyn had her crew drop the baskets. This isn't over, she hissed. After they left, Ryan took my statement and copies of the footage. I've dealt with this HOA before, he said quietly. They push limits, but this is new. The DA will decide on charges. Beef up your security. After he left, Sarah and I assessed the damage. Trampled plants, broken stems, at least $2,000 lost, plus future yields. We need to hit back hard, Sarah said. I'll file for a restraining order today. They're escalating, and if they're pushing rezoning, they're in it for the long haul. We've got to get ahead. That night, I emailed the county zoning office about any rezoning requests for my area and called the local paper, inviting a reporter to my farm. Why is this news? The editor asked. Because Pinewood HOA is harassing a legal small farm with trespassing and theft, and I've got video, I said. We'll send someone tomorrow, he replied, intrigued. I spent the night reinforcing fences and adding lights, sleeping fitfully as every sound made me check the cameras. The next morning, another notice was on my mailbox, calling my farm a biological hazard due to uncontrolled growth and insect breeding, threatening $5,000 daily fines. As I stared at this nonsense, my phone pinged, an email from the zoning office. Dear Mr. Bennett, we confirm receipt of application HCR 2025, agricultural, to residential, HOA. Public comment starts in 30 days. They were trying to strip my zoning out from under me. How could they win? The reporter, Emily Carter, arrived as I processed this, a sharp young woman who took photos, especially of the ruined crops. Can I see the footage? She asked. I showed her Evelyn's crew looting my fields. They just took what they wanted, Emily said, stunned. They think they're untouchable, I replied. She scribbled quickly. I'd like to talk to neighbors, get both sides. Please do, I said. I just want the truth out. After she left, Sarah called. We've got a restraining order hearing next week, but I dug into that rezoning. Guess who filed it 3 weeks ago? Evelyn, Charles Reed, and his brother-in-law, County Commissioner David Brooks. It clicked. They had insider pull. So what now? We fight on all fronts, Sarah said. Restraining order, police report, media, and we contest the rezoning head-on. Can we win? Agricultural land's protected here. They need proof your farm harms surrounding properties, not just looks bad. It's tough with their connections, but we've got a shot. As we hung up, I saw Charles drive by slowly, staring at my house. This wasn't just about my farm anymore. It was about standing up to bullies who thought power let them take anything.